Welcome, weary traveller, to a quiet tale of unseen power and enduring legacy whispered across the ages. She was born without a sword, a crown, or a name worth uttering. Yet by the time she departed, empires had shifted, kings had bled, and history itself had tried and failed to erase her. This is not a chronicle of battlefields, nor the saga of a conquering general or an invading army. Instead, it is the story of a girl who swiftly grasped that in a realm dominated by blades and banners, the keenest weapon was the body, and the most lethal throne resided not in castles, but within the marriage bed. You have heard of the men who reigned, but the girl who orchestrated the game beneath that towering egos, she meticulously rewrote the rules, inscribing them in ink, in blood, and within the very wombs of queens. Her name holds no significance. Call her Berengaria, or Eleanor, or Theophanu, for this is not the tale of a solitary woman, but rather a profound lineage, a silent dynasty of daughters born into obscurity and raised to conquer without ever drawing a blade. This is the intricate game that preceded the Game of Thrones. It commences precisely where most narratives conclude, with a wedding. A girl barely 14, draped in shimmering silk, her slender wrists burdened by gold cuffs too heavy for her delicate frame, trembles slightly. Her husband, a prince twice her age and already inebriated, awaits. Their union is a mere border treaty, sealed not with ink on parchment, but with blood and the promise of a womb. Yet, amidst the pomp and revelry, no one observed the depth in her eyes. Even then, she was meticulously calculating, assessing allies, identifying threats, anticipating inheritances. While others perceived a demure bride, she envisioned a meticulously laid chessboard. For in her world, lineage was the ultimate law, the body a crucial currency, and children veritable siege engines. She would never ride into battle. Instead, she would birth kingdoms. She learned to offer a gentle smile to the mistresses, inviting them into her intimate court, adorning them with pearls and listening intently to their whispered sighs. When their trust was fully gained, she would softly suggest, not poison, but a potent possibility. Then she would discreetly withdraw, allowing their own simmering envy to complete the task. She never needed to raise a hand. Others performed the tearing, the accusing, the burning. She remained pristine, untouched, a figure of serene purity amidst a den of raging fire. Her true genius lay not in seduction, but in an artful subtraction. She eliminated rivals with the precision of a physician bleeding an illness, silent, exact, and utterly necessary. Every unexplained miscarriage within the palace walls was a calculated move, every heir who mysteriously fell ill a careful correction. Her womb was not merely sacred, but profoundly strategic. Each birth was a tactical maneuver, each cradled infant a silent coronation. But the most perilous role she would ever embody was the one history consistently omits, the Queen Mother.
For while queens are ultimately replaceable, a queen mother is not. A widow with a son firmly on the throne holds an unparalleled sway. A woman a king must heed, even as he feigns that the decisions were entirely his own. She never adorned herself with a physical crown. Instead, she wore something far sharper: legacy. She communicated through carefully penned letters, in profound silences, in the precise timing of a grand feast, or in the sudden assent of a nobleman previously unknown who privately knelt to kiss her ring. She never issued threats. She patiently waited. She never commanded. She meticulously arranged. And then she vanished, not from life itself, but from public sight. They labeled it retirement, piety, a devout withdrawal into a convent. They whispered that she had grown ancient and holy, believing her newfound quietude was an act of surrender. But they profoundly misunderstood silence. Her self-imposed exile was a masterstroke of calculation, a flawless vanishing act. For power, when it is weak, often boasts loudly. True power, however, always whispers. From her hidden sanctuary she continued to dispatch letters, devoid of signature, bearing only the faint scent of crushed violets and ink procured from Constantinople. Her messengers were tongueless, ensuring their absolute loyalty, incapable of betrayal. Her gold arrived in unmarked coffers, always conveniently after a bishop's vote mysteriously shifted, or a rival heir inexplicably fell ill. She held no official title, only boundless reach, no visible throne, only an unbreakable lineage. Her son reigned, but he was weary, burdened by too many wars and too many sons of his own. She advised from afar, shrouded in memory, cloaked in myth. And when people dared to inquire, "Is she still alive?" their answer subtly shifted with the day, and with the palpable fear in their voice. They christened her the Dowager Ghost, and they were right, for ghosts do more than merely haunt. They profoundly remind. She meticulously began to erase herself, a deliberate act. Letters were burned, portraits scraped clean, royal seals removed. Her very name vanished from official decrees, not because she was forgotten, but because her oblivion became the sole safeguard for her lineage. She left behind no grand statues, but instead sons who endured and daughters who ruled. Treaties bore the subtle imprint of her handwriting, signed by men who genuinely believed they were sovereign. But she knew better. A man can only sign what a woman has already orchestrated. Her most brilliant move was not the raising of a king, but the meticulous training of her granddaughter. She recognized the calm, silent, yet searing intensity in the girl's eyes. She imparted lessons no book could ever teach: when to shed tears, when to endure starvation, when to utter a charming smile and simultaneously devastate with a single raised eyebrow. The girl, too, would one day rule, not through overt force, but through subtle omission. She would become the kind of woman who could walk through a raging war without ever lifting her skirts, yet somehow emerge as the definitive reason peace was ultimately signed. They, too, would attempt to erase her, but lineage always remembers. For within the very bones of Cain's there perpetually echoes the whisper of the woman who shaped him.
Time flowed, not in mere decades, but in entire dynasties. Sons ascended to kinship, kings became fathers, and fathers in turn forgot. Yet the indelible bloodline remembered. And in the hushed shadows of every council hall, every marriage bed, every coronation, her presence still lingered. They ceased speaking her name, not out of disrespect, but from an underlying fear. To utter her name was to tacitly acknowledge that she still held sway. Yet faint traces persisted, a treaty meticulously rewritten in a woman's elegant hand, a sudden inexplicable alliance forged between long-standing enemies, sealed not by ink, but by the quiet miracle of a childbirth. A bishop abruptly exiled overnight after a subtle whisper reached the distant heart of Rome. She was physically gone, but the profound rules she had meticulously authored remained. Rules that declared, the strongest queen is the one who never wears the crown. The true throne is constructed within the bedchamber. Legacy is not sculpted in stone. It resides in the womb, in memory, in the very bloodline. And silence above all, is the most resonant weapon.
Then, one day, a diligent historian unearthed a fragile fragment, a letter, unsigned, dated a mere month before the swift collapse of a powerful northern kingdom. It bore a chilling message. Do not fight him. Feed his pride. Let him believe it was his idea. Then send the girl. She has the eyes. Remind her that tears are more useful than armies. It was devoid of signature, yet the distinct ink was undeniably hers, the timing impeccably perfect, and the kingdom never rose again. Centuries unfurled, nations emerged and then crumbled, new deities supplanted the old, empires buckled under the sheer weight of their own vaunted names, and still women continued to play the game. Not loudly, not publicly, but in the tender melodies of lullabies, in veiled, whispered instructions, in the quiet, subtle shaping of future rulers. A gentle finger tapped once upon a cradle, a hushed correction offered during a stately dance, a stoic refusal to shed tears at a funeral. The game endured, not driven by ambition, but by the primal instinct for survival. For in a world that crowned men and consigned women to oblivion, she chose not to be buried. She chose to become utterly unforgettable by becoming utterly invisible.
And one day, a young girl, miles away in a kingdom yet unborn, stood in a cold, echoing room, confronting the reality of an arranged marriage. She drew a deep breath, offered a faint smile, and softly declared, "Let him think he won." She did not consciously know it, yet in that profound moment she became her. For this is not the chronicle of a single woman, but an unbroken lineage, a resonant chord played across centuries, audible only to those who possess the wisdom to truly listen. And the haunting melody is this: the throne bleeds for those who never sit on it.
that is the game before all games, played by queens without crowns, by mothers without statues, and by girls who ruled by meticulously teaching their daughters to survive, armed with silence, blood, and sheer brilliance. And they always will. They assert that history is penned by the victors, but that is a profound falsehood. History is etched by those who are granted the permission to speak. And women like her, they did not speak, they taught. They taught through survival, through their daughters, through meticulously careful choices, and through even more deliberate silences. Their narratives were not inscribed upon monuments, but indelibly etched into behavior itself, into the very manner a girl learns to navigate a roomful of powerful men and subtly make them believe it was their own idea to yield. She is omnipresent in every diplomatic smile, in every noble woman who marries for peace and then quietly inherits the kingdom, in every law meticulously rewritten not by force, but by the profound power of motherhood. You do not perceive her, and that precisely is the point. Her genius was not in being remembered, but in becoming utterly unforgettable, without ever being visibly seen. For there exist two distinct forms of power, the kind that loudly boosts, and the kind that quietly constructs legacies in profound silence. And history will eternally praise the wrong king and overlook the right mother, unless someone dares to listen deeper, to the footnotes, to the erased names, to the unsigned letters. And if you do, you will discern her voice, still echoing softly across the centuries. A throne is not a mere seat. It is a wound that never truly heals, unless you learn to bleed through others.
Now, as the whispers fade, may your own journey into dreams be filled with quiet strength and peaceful slumber.